Welcome to On the Sidelines, the show that discusses sports and how sports intersects our lives. I'm your host, Paul McGrath, and I am glad that you can join us for this show. It was in June of 1972 that then U.S. President Richard M. Nixon signed into law Title IX of the Education Amendments, which banned discrimination on the basis of sex in federally funded education programs. The United States Senate passed this bill with this long sentence: no person in the United States shall be, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Please note that there is no specific mention of women or sports in that language, but the interpretation of Title IX is that women in sports programs must be treated fairly and equitable with men's sports programs. Now, over 50 years later since the passage of Title IX, where are we with women's sports? Not only with federally funded education programs, but with women's sports programs at all levels. I am pleased to have as a guest of On the Sidelines two women to discuss the current state of women's sports. Joining us is Westborough High graduate and Worcester State University Hall of Fame member Chrissy Gaffney and Johanna DiCarlo, the athletic director of Westborough High School. Ladies, welcome to On the Sidelines.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Well, it's been a while since Title IX passed, but we don't actually have to go into Title IX right away. Let's go back into how you ever got interested in sports as women. You know, I won't use the name 50 years ago, but what got you interested? Was it your family, just TV, or just you? We'll start with you, Johanna.
It's interesting. I don't have a ton of athletes in my family in terms of my brothers and sisters. I come from a large family. And I do think that I used sports as a kid to kind of find my place. When you come from a large family, everybody sort of has their roles. And for me, I always felt most comfortable on a field somewhere, hanging around the gym after school. And that really became sort of my identity in my family, that I was sort of the athlete and the one that spent the most time probably playing athletics.
So how many brothers and sisters did you have?
2 brothers, 2 sisters.
Oh, so, and where were you in the pecking order?
I am dead center.
Oh, the infamous middle child.
It's a fun fact I use at parties, is that I have an older brother, an older sister, a younger brother, and a younger sister. And they certainly partook in athletics, but never to the level that I sort of stayed with it and continued in it and spent a lot of time doing it.
So at that younger age, was there any particular sport? Because back then it was probably baseball, basketball, the major sports. I don't know what. Or did you play with the kids in the neighborhood?
You were pretty limited. I was a huge neighborhood kid.
Yeah.
And so we spent hours and hours and hours playing outside. Everything from football to chicken to wiffle ball, baseball, all that stuff. So, at the time I was growing up in the mid 80s, and so I think I had mostly basketball and softball sort of available to me. So those were the 2 that I sort of took to first. And then certainly as I progressed later, and I think we'll probably talk about that later on, I sort of pivoted and played a couple different sports. But I have such fond memories of playing with all the kids in the neighborhood. And a neighbor across the street from me actually bought us all football uniforms, full-on football uniforms and helmets for us to play football in the front yard with. And the one that he gave me was USC. So I automatically became a USC football fan back in the 80s. Yeah.
How about you, Chrissy? You're a Westborough native here.
I am.
What streets were we playing on? Did we play? I know when I was a kid, I played in the streets. How about you? How about you in Westborough?
Well, in Westborough, it was in our neighborhood. I grew up on Cottage Street, but we played over on Elm and Spruce. There was a field there, and we used to play kickball, wiffle ball. So that was a little. It's funny because when you're a kid, the field seems so big, and then when you revisit it as an adult, it's tiny. Yeah. But yeah, that's. I definitely was a neighborhood kid playing, different sports. And I remember playing Lassie League in Westborough. Yeah. It was the softball league, and I think that might have been middle school. I played that, and then in high school, I played basketball, volleyball, track and field, and then our senior year, we were talking about soccer earlier, my senior year was the very first year that we had women's soccer. So I was actually able to play 4 sports in college, high school.
Yeah.
And my sister Eileen was a very good athlete. She played volleyball a lot.
So
And
you have one sister, or how big was your family?
I'm one of 6.
Oh, I see. Wow.
Yeah, there were 5 girls, and I was the youngest, and then my brother. Unfortunately, my sister Eileen has passed away.
Yeah.
But she was a big influence on me because she loved volleyball, and she played volleyball in high school at Worcester State, and I kind of followed her footsteps as far as that goes.
Yep.
But yeah, I would say I loved watching football as a kid with my dad, always watching the Patriots, and I've just always been a sport fan.
Okay. Well, we do have some embarrassing parts we're allowed to do on this show. So let's have Aiden now. Let's go back here. We're going to get up to high school now with Chrissy, and there's a great picture. This is Chrissy
Thank
back in Westborough High School, class of '84, if I believe correctly.
My hair was perfect.
Everything was perfect. I have no idea. I read these things in the high school yearbook. I have no idea. I don't even know if you remember what all these crazy things are.
Not
We're not
gonna
going to
say a
ask you.
thing.
We're not going to ask you.
I plead the fifth.
But there you are. And the next one, there we are. This was the basketball team when you were a junior. And I think that's your number
21.
21 right there in the first row. Some of your classmates. And we also have, there it is, I think you're number 8 there.
Right in the bottom.
You're
front.
right in the bottom there
Yeah.
on the
Soccer team.
on the soccer team. So, there any memories of playing? I don't know how the teams did, or how you did, or what you remember here. This is Westborough High.
Our first year of soccer, I'm surprised you didn't pick this up in the yearbook because it said how I kicked one of my teammates right in the knee. I'm like, why did they have to put that in the yearbook?
Would you still talk to her? Yeah.
We actually went on to play basketball at Worcester State together. But it was definitely a learning year. It was the first year we've ever played soccer.
This would have been the
very
first
year. So it was definitely learning as we went, and as we played. It was so much fun, though. It was just such an honor to be a part of a very first sport at the school.
So I wonder how many sports, since you were there, and Johanna, you come on, how many additional sports we have. And I mean, you were 1984.
That's when I graduated.
I mean, soccer was new. I wonder if there's any other. It's hard to believe the program is developed.
I mean, in order to get the actual number, I'd have to go back and sort of look at the
I
history of
understand.
it. But it's quite substantial. We have many offerings for our kids, and we're continuing to always look at ways to add more. So I know one of the sports that we're hoping to bring online in the school. So right now we're part of a cooperative team with Shrewsbury, but we've had a lot of interest lately in girls ice hockey. So we're hoping to have our own team in the coming years.
Oh, that'd be great.
And add that program in. So we're always looking for opportunities to advance and grow our programs.
Right now, I believe, I might be wrong in this, I'll let you correct me, but if a girl wants to play hockey, she can go to now, because we don't have a program, she can go to another school. I don't know if it's any school or just there's
a lot of rules around all of that. So we enter into what's called a cooperative team agreement, and so we are right now in a cooperative team agreement with Shrewsbury High School. So our girls that would like to play ice hockey have the opportunity to play for the Shrewsbury High School team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and boys or whatever the sport may be, there's a crisscross there.
Yeah, there's rules as to how we enter into those cooperative teams. The other school needs to show a need that they don't have enough players, and they can go out and ask a team to join them. So it gets a little complicated there, but there is an opportunity for us to have our kids play a sport at another school if we don't offer it. But there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes there to make that happen.
Yeah. Now you went to Drake High.
I did.
Now what sport did you play? Sports at Drake High?
I sure did. Yeah, I played. Field hockey, basketball, and softball. So I grew up sort of playing soccer as well, and got to high school, and field hockey was an option in high school. I had never seen the sport really before. My sister's 2 years older than me, and she played, and so that was sort of my first introduction to it. And I went out for the soccer team, or thought about the soccer team, and they told me that I would have to play goalie if I joined the soccer team. And I said, well, yeah, but I want to stay in shape for basketball, so that makes no sense. So I did join the field hockey team, and interestingly enough, that ended up being sort of the sport that I pursued in college and beyond. Ended up coaching collegiately, so field hockey ended up being
good
my
for you.
love.
And, so-
That's great.
and you went to Bentley, I believe.
I did go to Bentley, yep.
And you played the same.
I played
same
field
sports, yeah?
hockey, and I actually picked up lacrosse in college. So our field hockey coach had to coach the lacrosse program as well, and so she grabbed a whole bunch of us and said, rather than doing springtime conditioning, you're going to play lacrosse. And so it was 2 years of collegiate lacrosse that I never sort of had coming, but it was a blast. I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's pick up. We have another picture here, Aiden, if we can show. This is this past year, you were inducted into the Worcester State University Hall of Fame.
Just a few months
And
ago.
we have here, we will have you and Mike Mudd, the athletic director. A little bit of your Worcester State University Hall of Fame career. I mean, you had to be pretty good to get into the Hall of Fame.
Well, I was fortunate. My daughter was the one who nominated me.
Uh-huh.
And I pretty much, I was going to throw the shot put and the discus because I threw that in high school. And my track coach introduced me to the hammer throw, and I had no idea what the hammer throw was before he introduced me to it. And that was what I became most successful in, was the hammer throw and the 20-pound weight. And so for track and field, I did the throwing events: hammer, shot put, discus, and the 20-pound weight throw. And I also played volleyball. I played indoor, outdoor track, and then basketball. And I loved basketball. I just loved playing basketball. That was my sport. I had a lot of fun with that.
So, at Westborough High School, were you on the track team?
I was.
So what did you do? I mean, here we are at the Hall of Fame, but what do we?
Well, it's
Westborough
funny.
gave us some, beginnings.
Yes, Westborough was very good to me. It's funny because with the track team, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I actually tried pretty much everything. I threw the shot put, the discus, the javelin. I did the high jump, the long jump. What was it, the 220? Does that sound right?
You can say anything with us. Yeah.
Sure. I tried a running event.
Yeah.
I just wanted to try everything just to see what I might be good at. And I did the high jump. It wasn't as smooth, because I have some pictures from that, and I needed a lot more training. But track, and I had so much fun, and it was such a big team that we had so much fun at the meets and everything, and I loved it.
Well, looking at you or anyone, I never think of the hammer throw. What's the hammer throw all about?
Oh my gosh, the hammer throw is so much fun. It's like a
You
shot
believe you're
put.
throwing at someone or what? Huh?
A shot put. Take a shot put
Yeah.
and put it on, I believe it's a 3-foot metal wire with a metal handle. And what you do is you swing it over your head, and as you're spinning through the circle, the ring, you are actually rolling on the side of your left foot. And you roll, you spin, and then it's a lot of, it's not upper body strength, it's actually a lot of lower body strength. And what you do is you release it this way, and it is just, I used to, I told
We don't
you
do that.
I was going to ask, are we going to offer this at Westborough?
No.
It's too
Hammer throws
dangerous.
in high school athletes.
It's too dangerous.
Do we have insurance policies?
But I would love it. As I mentioned, I grew up on Cottage Street, so
Yeah.
right across the street was Bay State Abrasives.
Yeah.
And so there was this driveway, and I would take the hammer home with me, and I would literally just do spins for hours and hours just to really get the technique down. I enjoyed it that much. And that technique was very helpful with the 20-pound weight that I threw as well.
So while you're at Worcester State University, you lived on Cottage Street, and you're out there. Did anyone kind of look at you and wonder what you were doing? Or?
Oh, my older neighbors, she ended up asking me what it was that I was doing, and I just told her it was a sport in college.
Yeah.
And that was it. Because it did look unusual, for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, it was just something I just really practiced, because the technique, like I said, you had to roll on the side of your foot in order to get the spin really quick. And the more you practice, and you had special shoes for it as well to do that.
So it's not, I suppose, not only how far you throw it, but accuracy, somewhat.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So that was.
And the 20-pound weight, It was the very first year, my teammate and I, there was only two of us, and Francine and I, and in the throwing events, and we would actually place and get more points for the team than some whole teams combined. That's how good we were at throwing. And I just lost my train of thought about Francine.
The 20-pound weight.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to, oh, yes, Francine and I. So we both qualified. It was the very first year.
Now, was she from Westborough or just a classmate at Worcester State?
A classmate at Worcester State,
Worcester,
yeah. And it was in '89, that was our first year that we qualified for the nationals in the 20-pound weight throw. And that was up at Bowdoin College. And I was so mad. I was first place into the third throw because the woman that was, expected to win this, she had 2 fouls. So I felt really good that I might be in first place. Her last one, it was a bomb. She just hurled it out there. She ended up winning. She got first place, but I got second place, and Francine got third. So
Nice.
we were very successful with our
So
event.
your induction into the Hall of Fame with our athletic director here, Mike Mudd, was strictly for the track and field, or was it overall?
It was for track and field, volleyball, and basketball.
In basketball?
Yep.
So what position did we play in basketball?
Center.
Yes,
And forward, depending. Yeah, there was one year there was a woman that was taller than me. My first year going to Worcester State. I was only there for 2.5 years because I went to Quincy first.
Oh, yeah.
And then I transferred over. So I played center and forward.
And you didn't play basketball. You played softball, I believe. Am I wrong? Right? What?
And where?
Anywhere. You,
No, I played
probably
softball.
Bentley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In high school. Actually, I was recruited for softball.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
I was, and then went to Bentley and had an opportunity to try out for the field hockey team. The coach had called and said, I don't have a recruiting class. She was brand new, and I said, yeah, I'll come, but I'm not going to make your team. And got there and absolutely fell in love with her, fell in love with the team.
Yeah.
We were pretty mediocre year one, and decided in the springtime for softball, just wasn't my cup of tea, that group of people, and so I said, you know what, I've done 3 sports my entire life. I'm gonna kind of focus on one and see if I can get any good at one. And by good, I mean, I held my own certainly in high school. I did my thing, but I wanted to see if I could really excel in one sport, and so put all my energy into field hockey for a couple of years and changed my position. Had, again, Kelly McGowan, tremendous coach. She had just finished playing at Northeastern, and so she was young and energetic and athletic, and she was an All-American. Northeastern was a great program, so I just soaked up everything she had to teach. Like I said, changed a position to defense and fell in love with it. And we went on a great run for 4 years. So we went from being a mediocre team to being ECAC champions and NE10 champions for 3 years. And I had a tremendous career out there. Absolutely loved every minute of it. Made All-American a couple of years. And yeah, it was awesome. I really enjoyed my time playing with that group of women and playing for Kelly.
Now, playing there, did you ever have any inclination to either coaching or going to the position you are? How did that evolve? Well,
So
it's like when you're playing, you just want to play, I
Yeah,
suppose.
there's two funny stories. One is, it's very funny. In high school, I was actually the intern for my athletic director for 3 years, and I was a kid that literally, like, mom and dad couldn't come pick me up at a certain time, and so I just stayed after school. I always had practice because I was playing something, but even after practice, I would just stay through till the volleyball game at 7. So I was always around the athletic department, and so my sophomore year, our then athletic director said, why don't you just come work for me? And I said, great. So I spent like 3 periods a day, I feel like. I was always leaving class to go down to the athletics office and work in the AD's office, never foreshadowing that this would be where I ended up. So that was kind of funny. So I did a 5-year program at Bentley. I did my bachelor's and my master's in accounting at the same time. And so I had a 5th year to be on campus, but I had no eligibility left. And so I was a volunteer assistant coach for the field hockey program. We went to the national championship that year and just had an absolute great experience doing that. So I sort of I was working 2 jobs, I had played 2 sports. I basically looked at my parents after my 5th year and said, how about I just come home? They owned a restaurant. I said, I'm going to work in the restaurant, and I'm just going to take a year to sort of figure out where I want to go. I wasn't ready to go into Big 5 accounting firms. And so I was hired at Regis College to be their part-time field hockey coach, like $3,500 to coach the fall season. I accepted on the spot when they offered it to me, and that kind of came about just from talking to people in field hockey and somebody telling me, hey, Regis needs a coach, and I was like, oh, whatever, maybe I'll check that out. Long story short is that over the summertime they called me back and said, we need an assistant athletic director and a softball coach. Can you coach softball? And I said, I'll figure it out. Like I know I can make that work. And so I accepted a position right out of college at 23 years old, being the assistant AD at Regis College and coaching
That's
two sports.
incredible.
Yeah.
And I was there for 2 years, and it was an absolute crash course in college athletics. I had worked in college in the athletic facility and stuff too, but this was a hands-on, every single aspect of that athletic department. I had a wonderful mentor, athletic director Judy Burling, who was at Regis forever, and she just said, "Here you go, kid, figure it out. Like, here's budgeting, here's scheduling, here's hiring." Coach
That's
the
a
two
huge
teams.
responsibility.
It was awesome. It really was tremendous. And so those 2 years sort of indoctrinated me into, well, maybe I want to make a career out of athletics. But at the teams that I was coaching, it was a struggle. You know, it was hard to get kids to come to Regis College to play. We were pretty bad. And so we made strides. But a woman that I had been introduced to through Regis, she had left to go to WPI, and she called me up and said, after 2 years, and said, "Hey, why don't you come coach at WPI?" And I said, "All right, they're better programs." And so I made the move to WPI, was there for 5 years, coached field hockey and softball, and worked in their phys ed department. So.
You would know my track coach probably, Mike Stomsky. He was a throwing coach. At
Oh, was he?
WPI.
At WPI? Maybe the years I was there 2002 to 2007.
What are we in, 22? No, yeah.
Yep.
We'll see.
So I say I kind of fell into it,
So-
but it was always probably fate in some way, shape, or
It was
form
out
that I
there
would stay.
one way or
Yeah,
the other,
it was.
yeah?
It was kind of out there that I would probably make some sort of a go at a career in athletics.
Okay, and if we can bring up a couple more pictures, we're going to show some more. We're going to go transition from Chrissy to the next generation, your daughter. This is your daughter, Erin. If we
It
can show a couple of
is.
Erin. Erin is now a senior at Worcester State
Correct.
University. There she is playing lacrosse.
Yes.
And the next one we have her is taking up her mother's steps here in volleyball. What effect do you, now it's a new generation. You know, did you teach your daughter, coach her? You know, you're a mother now.
I'm too far removed, and it's changed so much.
Yeah.
Because when I played, I believe it was 15 points, and you had to serve in order to get the point. Now it's 25 points, and there's a point exchanged every
Every serve.
every serve.
yeah.
Yep. So it's a lot different. So I I sit back and I learn
Now,
as I watch.
Does she know what her mother did, the sports her mother played? Or
Oh, she does, and that's why she wanted me to be inducted, because she was very proud of all my
Yeah.
accomplishments as an athlete.
Well, how's it feel watching, her play?
I love it. I love it. She's the tallest player that her coach Bernie Chase, he's been there 18 years, and she's the tallest player that he's ever coached. And she was actually a walk-on, and what she learned, just to see her change from freshman year to senior year, oh my gosh, she is absolutely amazing. Just grew right into the sport. She gets so excited, and she's just so fun to watch. She's an excellent role model for her teammates, and she's just so much fun to watch. She's very passionate about it.
So how was yours as a parent when you watched the game? You nervous? You just kind of sit back?
If you ask Erin how I am, I am very involved and very involved with all the plays. And the girls, if I'm late to one game, and I was just one game, maybe 5 minutes late, they're like, "Where's your mom? Where's your mom? Where's your mom?" They look for me to be there all the time, which makes me feel really good, because they know, I'm the team mom when, some parents can't be there. So, I'm very involved, very, very involved.
Well, the next generation is here, so I'm going to change it up a little bit here. I'll tell you a couple of stories in my life in sports, and it will transition here. When I was a young boy, we'd go to Wilmington, Delaware, to visit my grandmother. She lived in Wilmington, home of Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I was about 10 years old. In the summer, I'd go down, they had a big park, basketball, football, had a swimming pool, everything. Bring my basketball, and down there, I'm all alone, and this kid came down and said, "Can I shoot hoops with you?" I said, "Sure, no problem." His name, now why I remember this, I don't know. His name was Junior. So me and Junior played hoops, horse, pig, whatever. So Junior says, "Will you be here tomorrow?" I said, "Yeah, I'll be here tomorrow." So I'll bring my friends. I said, "Fine." So anyway, next day, it's Junior and his friends, and we played basketball. And we had a great time. The thing I didn't tell you is Junior and his friends were all black. I had never played, in Worcester. But again, life is simple. Black, white, didn't matter. You're playing sports. So that fall, I go back around Thanksgiving, and my grandmother lived in a little row house. The backyard was as big as a postage stamp, not big at all. And I noticed on the next block, somebody had put a shed, which nobody put a shed up, but there was a hoop and a kid playing basketball. So I go over, and I was about 10. This person was about 11, except it was a girl. And we played hoops, pig and horse, or whatever. And I remember, she was a little bit older than me, but I also remember she beat me, which it probably wouldn't take much to beat me, but I do remember that. But again, boys and girls playing simple, things aren't that simple in life, is it? So let's read, we have the MIA handbook here, page 4, and it says, schools with specific questions about gender equity in their own athletic program should work with their district's legal representatives to ensure compliance with all laws. As a result of a ruling in 1979, the MIA amended its rules to state a girl may play on a boys' team if that sport is not offered in the school for the girl, and the boy may play on a girls' team if that sport is not offered in the school for the boy. So we've come a long way now. How much of that, have you ever played with boys, and we'll get into Westborough High, how much of that happens? Or any problems with you playing?
Growing up in our neighborhood, we played, like I said, wiffle ball.
Didn't matter.
Didn't matter.
Yeah.
No, you just wanted.
So life
a
is
big
simple
group.
in the neighborhood.
Yes.
But it's not as simple, I don't think, as we get to high school.
Yeah.
Is there much of that, or how do you, if a guy doesn't make the guy's basketball, can he try out for the girl? I mean, you'll have all questions, I'm sure.
Yeah, it is. It's actually something that we're always discussing. So the MIA handbook that you're referencing right now, I sit on a blue ribbon committee with the MIA to talk specifically about gender equity issues and any sort of issues that pop up in the association that need to be discussed in relation to boys, girls, gender identity, and it's a changing landscape.
Yeah.
It is very different than it was 20 years ago, just in terms of our society. We now have transgender students. We now have non-gender identifying students. It's not as simple as boys and girls.
No, it's not.
As
It
it
isn't,
was.
is it? Yeah.
And it's great. You know what? It's a diverse, it's colorful, it's fantastic. These kids are finding their ways, and the rules are not always catching up with the circumstances that we're finding ourselves in. So we're actually having those discussions right now. We've had experiences where we've had boys that have been playing on traditionally girls' teams, and volleyball and field hockey tend to be the two most hot topics.
Dominant, yeah.
Yeah, so field hockey is one that happens quite often because there just isn't boys' teams out there. And the MIA Association has been working the last few years to start to try to establish
Well,
at least.
that's one thing I think about. When you say field hockey, I never think of guys.
I don't either.
But European and worldwide, it is a
Oh,
men's
really?
sport.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of the most popular men's sport there is in the world. So all over Europe, and it's just hockey. It's not field hockey because they call it ice hockey, and hockey is field hockey.
Yeah, over there.
Over
yeah.
there, and it is. I don't know what the stats are now, but back 10 years ago, it was one of the most popular sports over in Europe and across the rest of the world. It's just never really picked up here in the States. And so we particularly, when one of my first years here at Westborough, had a student whose dad grew up in the Netherlands and had introduced the sport to him and didn't know any different. As a kid, that was the sport that he saw, that he played, that he loved. Got to high school and was like, wait a minute, I can't play this sport over here in the States and in high school. And so he played on our girls' team. It's not popular with everybody, but I've really tried to get our community to understand that every kid just wants to play. Every kid just wants to play.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And so I understand that there could be some physical differences between some of our boys and some of our girls. But the conversation that I have a lot with our community, our kids, and even at the state level is that there can be a physically dominant girl on any team. Mm-hmm. And so we have to sort of try and separate out the physical part of boys and girls and just say, is there really a disadvantage with this kid playing? So the rule that you sort of referenced at the beginning was put in also to say that we can't displace our girls in order to put boys on our teams. And so that's one thing at Westborough High, that if we had boys that wanted to play on some of our girls' teams, we could entertain the conversation, but we cannot take those opportunities away from our girls.
Right, the girls, if the girls are on the team, they're on the team.
The girls are on the team, they're on the team, and so we're not going to displace them. But, we are in Massachusetts fortunate to have some of the strongest anti-discrimination laws in the entire country. And so what we have to do in Massachusetts looks very differently than what they might be doing down in Texas,
Right.
I can imagine.
in Tennessee, in Montana.
Yeah.
And so we have got to provide opportunities for all of these kids to play if it falls within the laws of Title IX.
And with that, can I make a comment
Sure.
with that? The co-op that you mentioned,
Yep.
wouldn't that be beneficial for them if they still want to play, that they can be part of the co-op team?
Which the girls?
Well, if,
Or
let me, while you were talking, I was thinking, all three of my kids went to Worcester Tech.
Yeah.
And Erin played on the girls volleyball, and actually my sons, Danny and Sean, played on the boys volleyball team. But Sean was on the crew team, and it was a co-op team with other
high school.
other high schools
Oh,
in
I
the
see, yeah.
city.
Yeah.
And so, it was the Worcester crew team. It wasn't Worcester Tech crew team.
Yep.
And so I'm just thinking, and that was male and female. And Westborough doesn't have a boys volleyball team, do they?
We don't. I think it's
Is
something
that-
that's going to be
I
pretty
would look
popular in a
into
few
that,
years. But
absolutely, because they're amazing to watch.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. But I was just thinking with, someone who, the Netherlands gentleman who, is there another, I know he wants to play field hockey, but is there a co-op?
So in the case of field hockey, there's just not enough to even do that. You'd only have one team.
Okay.
You're pulling 3 or 4 kids or a kid from a couple of communities that have
Okay.
that. So we've been able to manage the mixed gender teams for now. But when we were talking in our Blue Ribbon Committee just the other day, it's interesting because we say, well, we have not had a lot of boys that have asked to play on sort of sports other than volleyball and field hockey, but it could come. Boys
Well,
could ask to play softball.
Rather than waiting for them to ask, why don't you put it out there who would be interested?
Because again, right now, I don't think across the state we have the structure to be able to actually have teams and have an opportunity for them to play
Okay.
enough games. There's not going to be enough teams that
Okay.
would be created.
To do that.
So in field hockey, we're trying to do that, but we cannot get enough kids to commit to play boys field hockey to
Okay.
really pick. So they're trying, they're starting that, but we're just not at a place now where we have enough of those. So
I think the tough one, I've seen it in college, I don't know if we've had it at Westborough, is the transgender. I mean, that's, what do you do? Because sometimes, I think it was the Princeton swim team, the guy, that
Yeah.
was a big issue. 'Cause
Yeah.
what,
again, we have very strict anti-discrimination
We-
laws
yeah.
in Massachusetts, and that anybody that, whichever gender that they identify with is the team that they can play on.
again, okay.
Yep, 100%. And again, I understand that there's some hot topics out in the newspapers and things sort of get sensationalized in the media, but I look at things as this is a kid trying to find their way.
Yeah.
Definitely.
These kids are not coming to try and gain a competitive advantage. And put yourself in the shoes of somebody who's going through identity crisis or just trying to fit in, and now put a spotlight on them and tell them they can't do something that they love. We're not going to get into
Yeah, and
that.
sports
so.
is important to kids in the development.
sure is.
Absolutely.
I think so.
It meant everything to me.
Yeah.
So I understand that things can look one way in the media and social media and all
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. But when especially at the high school level, our job is to shepherd these kids through those 4 years, and hopefully build up a skill set and a confidence level that's going to set them up for life. And so I know at Westborough we would be very heavily supported to make sure that any kid that chose a specific team would be able to be on that team.
Yeah. I went through the book. I didn't read the whole. There's 126 pages in that book.
It's a
which
massive
is crazy.
handbook. It is.
But I love this one. I like to play golf. I read this one. Female golfers participating on a boys' team during the regular season play must hit from the tee box that is placed closest, yet in front of the tee box of the boys' team that they're hitting from, regardless of marker or color. So they're letting the girls play a tee ahead, but female golfers competing in the boys' team must hit from the boys' team at MIA divisional and state tournaments. So when they get to the playoffs, they're saying, come back here. It seems to me that would be a disadvantage. Why not let them play this is my
same
own
way.
opinion.
Yeah.
It's like, well, or is the coach going to say, wait a minute, you can't go to the playoffs because we're going to have you play back here? I don't know. I read that rule and I said, well, it doesn't make sense. And I know there was one girl, I think from was very good. She was in the playoffs a couple of years ago.
Yeah, there's been a couple. There was actually a female golfer this year from Eastern Mass. I can't remember exactly which school it was. Westford Academy, maybe. She was tremendous, and she beat all the boys from the boys' team.
From the boys' team.
Absolutely.
This one seems to be a
Absolutely.
disadvantage. Like during the season, you can play up here, but when you get to the playoffs, it's like, well, we're going to let her play. But I guess if a player
can play, they can play.
They
They can play.
You know, and this is the very interesting part of it in volleyball as well. So volleyball, there is a rule on the books right now that if challenged in court, the MIA would lose on. And this has been a very heavy discussion at our Blue Ribbon Committee meetings. And so we violate our own anti-discrimination laws with that rule. It's saying that the boys that play on a girls' volleyball team can't play in the front row. They must stay in the back row.
Well, it can't be a.
And the reason why is that net is 6 inches shorter in the girls' game.
Yeah.
However, I
Hold on.
I know.
I sort of talk about this and say, I understand the intent of the rule. We want to prevent anyone from being, harmed by somebody hitting the ball really hard. I'm going to tell you right now, Westborough High School has kids that can hit the ball harder than any boy I've ever faced. I'm just saying. And so the work that we're doing at the association is really interesting. We have a couple of law professors that come in and talk to us, and we say, she tries to get us to understand that it shouldn't matter what the physical gender, the sex of a student is. It should matter the physical attributes.
Right.
So maybe the law needs to be the rule needs to be that if you are 6'5" or above, you can't play in the front row. Or if you hit the ball over 100 miles an hour, you can't be in the front row. Because what we're trying to do, what they're saying by not allowing boys to the front row is they could harm somebody on the other side of the net. Is it really a boy, or is it somebody that hits the ball really hard or can jump really high? And so that's the really progressive thinking that we have to sort of take into account when making these rules or adjusting these rules, because right now in a court of law we would lose.
Well, what if I were to say wear a helmet? I don't know.
Different
I mean,
sport.
but all
Different
these
sport.
things, so what were you going to say? You were going to say something.
In high school, my daughter played a team where there was a boy played against a team that there was a boy on, and that was the same thing. He had to stay in the back. They're so much stronger. They really are. And I was at the couple of the Westborough games, and they're amazing. But boys are just generally stronger, and I think that rule is effective because I would be terrified to go after, try and face up against a boy in the front row of volleyball. That's why I would love to see if Westborough could get their own boys team, because they're incredible to watch, and it's a lot quicker pace watching a boys game. So I can see the safety issues.
Well, we started off by talking about Title IX. It's not only how far girls' sports have come, but now we got the mix. I mean, it's all different.
Yeah.
From when you were there. Well, there was a what do I have here? There was a survey, I guess, that came up. The top 100 schools for athletes in Massachusetts, and it was compiled by this company called Niche out of Pittsburgh. And the criteria used was based on data from students and parents using data from the U.S. Department of Education, whatever that was. But anyway, they found out the top 100 in Massachusetts. St. John's was number 14, Shrewsbury 26, Algonquin 50, Doherty 72. But I think, Westborough didn't make it. I'm kind of glad. I think Westborough, we're more rounded for students and athletes. I think Westborough's done a tremendous job. And out of Westborough, we're going to change the subject here for a second. We've had 3 people make Olympic teams. Jimmy Campbell played for the U.S.
Jimmy,
Hockey.
Yep.
But the other 2 are women. They graduated from Westborough High School. And if we can bring up here, we have one. There's Ashley Hayden.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, Ashley Hayden, a graduate of Westborough High School in 1999, played field hockey. And if we can look, she was in the 2002 Olympics in Salt Lake City as a luger. I mean, I don't know how these people do it. I don't even know where they know, and they're going gazillion miles an hour. But she I'll give you a little credit to the high school, Johanna. She started luging by sledding down the hill at the back of Westborough High School. And then they banned that, and she went over to our Westborough golf course and said, all right, we're going to get down there. But again, I don't think we have luging at Westborough High, but she played field hockey at Westborough High School and went on to be an Olympic in the Olympics in 2002 and finished 8th. So we have very good. And then if we can go back even further to a Westborough High grad in 1989, and that's Nikki Stone. I think a lot of people remember Nikki Stone. Some may not know she won the gold medal in the 1998 Olympics in Nagano, Japan. She was also inducted into the Westborough High Hall of Fame. She played soccer. But I think for those that remember her, those that don't even know about Nikki, it's worth reliving a gold medal moment.
Sure. Definitely.
Looks like she's on track. Once again, lay tuck full, single twisting, triple somersault. Oh, she did it! She did it! That is going to be a terrific score. I think she may have put out a reach right there, Ted.
She knows it. That may have been gold. A high degree of difficulty, and she seemed to land perfectly. What a moment. She has an inoperable back injury, and despite all the suggestions to give it up, to quit, she knows she may have just done it.
Great opportunity to see just exactly what the hurlers are looking at there, way up over the ground there. But this is where it all started. Nice arm swing, good straight leg position, lays out all the way through, goes into the 90-degree tuck, and then kicks out. And she knows at this point she is right there. Positioning in the air, a little bit of a ski cross, but I think the difficulty and the landing portion of the score is going to keep her almost out of reach.
It's exciting.
What a feeling. She knew it right away. Let's see what Wayne thinks. He agrees.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. He is pumped.
So there you have it, gold medal, Westborough High School. She's in the Hall of Fame. She played other sports. I don't think we have aerial skiing or whatever.
We do not. No. We actually had quite a lot of success in sort of sports that we don't offer in the high school, but students have gone out and done tremendous things in horseback riding, dance. Weightlifting is a big one right now. We have a bunch of young women competing nationally in weightlifting. So it's not something that we do necessarily in the high school, but they are our students and our athletes going off and competing in all kinds of fun stuff.
Well, I looked at the MAA handbook here, and the last handbook, there were 20 rule changes. And one that you might be interested in, Chrissy, in basketball, they removed Rule 66.3 that stated the 10-second backcourt does not apply to the girls' game, which I think, wow, that's like ancient history.
Yeah.
But you're on the committee. I mean, how often do you do this? I mean, are the committees to say, I'll look at basketball, I'll look at softball? I mean, there's a lot of work here.
It is, and that Blue Ribbon Committee went through the handbook with a pretty fine-tooth comb, looking specifically for issues affecting gender or language affecting gender.
Yeah.
So again, trying to be a little bit more neutral in our language and trying to make sure that there was no conflicting areas where we were saying that a girl needed to do this or a boy needed to do that, and make sure that we were in compliance with all of our state laws. So we did that work about 2 years ago, and there's now a new executive director at the MIA. He's in year 2, Bob Baldwin, great guy, and he has committed to really doing a full-on review with our legal team of the MIA handbook, because again, I think there's some things in that handbook that have been there for 20, 30 years that just sort of get passed over.
Yeah.
And the landscape of athletics has changed so much, so quickly, that we need to make sure that that document is keeping up with it. And so I think his commitment is to review the handbook and then put in place opportunities for us to continually be revising that and taking a closer look at it with a group that's a little bit more focused on that.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go over, and of course, Nikki got the gold medal. We're happy with her. But let's go on, Aiden, if we can show one. I think we have one more picture. life after sports. What we know that's you and Erin. Tell us what
In the
shop
Sox
this is.
team
Yeah,
store.
and so what are you doing now?
I am a merchandise associate at the
Yeah.
Blue Sox team store, and I absolutely love it.
That
It's
must
so
be
much fun.
exciting to have the Woo Sox in town.
It's done so much for the city. Oh my gosh, it's people just come in, they're so happy. Even the ones from Pawtucket, you know, they come in and they're still a little upset, but they understand it wasn't that we wanted it more,
Yeah.
you know, and I try and, you know, let them know this is a good thing. And so it's just, I love seeing the, even the adults, they'll come in and, oh, this is my first game, you know, I've never been to a game before. And they're so happy. And then all the little kids, and when they see Smiley and Worcester and Roberto, all our mascots, it's such a happy place to work. It really is.
So as merchandise manager, how do you figure out?
Associate.
So I'm sorry, associate. How do you guys figure out, well, what's going to sell? The Smiley shirt or this or that? Do you have meetings on that? Or because we're brand new, people woo.
Right.
Smiley's big, I think.
Well, we were very fortunate that our director, Katarina Burns, she worked in other minor league baseball venues where she was the merchandise manager. So she opened up our store, and I was there, you know, before the store opened and everything. I was there from the beginning as well. And she has just been doing this for years. So we were very fortunate to have her, you know, run the show. And so she knew, you know, I mean, it was just kind of trial and error because it was a new city that you were in, and but she's always been a Red Sox fan too, which certainly helped. And our assistant manager, Kyla Freites, she went to UMass and she graduated as in sport management, and she's the assistant manager, and she just fell right into the position and did such a fantastic job. So there. Kat has since moved on now. She's with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Royals.
Oh, geez.
And so now we have a new director that came in. So it's more the director and the manager. They're the ones that do the ordering, and you know, they're the ones who know the trends as to what to order when. And but we have been very successful as a store. Very successful. And right now, the store's open year-round, which a lot of people don't know that, but we are very fortunate with online orders. And what I love about it, when I'm filling the orders, they're from California, Ohio, Washington. We have fans all over the country that we're very fortunate to have such a great fan base.
Well, I say come on down to the shop.
Come
buy
on down.
something,
You
get to
did.
see
You
Chrissy.
came to the shop.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to find. It's right there. All right, Johanna, what's going on with Westborough High from now on? You got 100 things to do.
It's always exciting. It's always
Yeah.
fun. So we're just kicking off our winter seasons now.
Yeah.
Opened up with some events yesterday, gymnastics and swimming, and we're back at it tonight with track and hockey's at the Burroughs Cup tonight and Saturday.
Oh, the Borough Cups are on
Burroughs
already?
Cup's
Oh.
happening. Yep. So we're excited. Every season, it's a breath of fresh air and a new group of kids, a new level of excitement running around, and so we're looking forward to sort of getting settled into our typical game schedules, and the teams are looking good.
Well, Chrissy Mitchell Gaffney, Johanna DiCarlo, thanks for being on the Sidelines, talking about women in sports, and I think we can only go one way. Keep going up.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So this is Paul McGrath saying, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you at the game. And if you're not in the game, I hope to see you on the sidelines.